And a very happy Tuesday to you at 12:07 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in Culver City.
John, yesterday in Las Vegas, it was the groundbreaking of a $1.75 billion stadium for the newly named Las Vegas Athletics.
And we still got our Oakland A's, baby.
You really don't.
I wonder if they would consider allowing Sheng Tao to throw out the first pitch on opening day.
She was instrumental in making this happen.
Without her, none of it would have been possible.
Oakland Bees!
If they had a competent mayor, they would have re-signed the Oakland A's in Oakland and probably come up with some kind of new stadium. But because they had the village idiot, Vegas gets a team.
Now, Sheng claimed that it was already a done deal even before she took office. But is it at all possible that if there was the possibility for a new stadium in Oakland, Sheng tanked that deal so she could sell the Coliseum?
It's possible because I'm telling you, that deal selling the Coliseum was just about the dirtiest deal she took part in. And that's one of the ones that we haven't heard mentioned in the complaint.
And that deal, the city of Oakland still hasn't seen a dime of.
I'm sure they'll get right on that, though.
I can get that.
All right, we got a big show for you today. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. A lot, of course, going on in the Middle East with Iran and Israel and Qatar and all of the bombs that are flying over there. But while that is going on, back home here in California, the news doesn't stop. We've been keeping a very close eye on everything that's been ignored while the bombs are flying in the Middle East. We have a lot to talk about today, including Victor Davis Hanson, who will be here the 2 o'clock hour. But right now it's time to open up the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And Randy, the first edition involves a black and white.
A crazy woman got detained by the police, and when they put her in the back of the cop car, she somehow fandangled her way to the front of the cop car and stole it.
Uh-oh.
And to make the picture more perfect, she was wearing Raiders gear.
Of course. Las Vegas, she's yours now.
For more, here is Fox 11 in Los Angeles.
LAPD trying to find the woman who allegedly stole a patrol vehicle and then ditched it in the Hollywood Hills. That suspect was apparently...
She ditched it near the Magic Castle.
Well, she had reservations at 7.
That suspect was apparently handcuffed the entire time while all this happened. Gigi Gracia joins us live from Hollywood.
If you're able to drive a car in handcuffs, chances are it's not your first time in handcuffs.
Okay, driving a car and driving it well while in handcuffs are two different things.
Well, we didn't say she drove it well.
Gigi Gracia joins us live from Hollywood with all the details. Hi there, Gigi.
Good morning, everyone. I just had a really long talk with the owner of the Porsche that was vandalized, and he basically told me the whole story. He doesn't want to go on camera because he said...
No one wants to go on camera anymore.
No, crime victims are now treated like mob informants. Everyone assumes if your identity is disclosed, you're a dead man walking.
He's simply too embarrassed that a girl that he knew, he met her last week, ended up doing all of this. And let me show you what all of this is. Take a look at that man's Porsche SUV. The woman, he says, went, in his words, crazy on him.
Okay, I wonder how he met this woman. I think we all know, but the guy was just the victim of a crime, so I'm going to be polite and not speculate.
Regardless of the circumstances, he met this woman a week ago, and then she decides to unload on his fancy-ass Porsche SUV.
He met her a week ago, and she's crazy. What are crazy people good at?
Well, there is that.
Yeah.
In his words, crazy on him when he wouldn't buy her alcohol.
How old is she?
That's another good question, but I'm going to be polite and not speculate.
What do you think she was asking for? little cocktail at the hotel bar, or did she want him to go into a liquor store and get a handle of Tito's?
Could be that.
When he wouldn't buy her alcohol, and she took out a knife with a pointed end and began smashing his windshield. She also...
Okay, I think that she's correct when she made the assessment that the woman was crazy.
So he meets her a week ago. They get together. We're still not really sure what for. She says, hey, I need booze. He says, I'm not buying you booze. She smashes his windshield Hulk style.
She says, I'm going to get pokey.
She also flattened 2 of his tires. Police were called by a nearby security guard. They arrived. They took her into custody, handcuffed her, and put her in the back of a patrol car while they continued their investigation with the man, he says. When all of a sudden, he and the 2 officers watched as the patrol car sped off.
Bye-bye.
Somehow she got to the front of that car.
Well, if she's upset that he thought that she was crazy, guess what? The cops think you're crazy, too.
The 2 police officers chasing right behind it on foot, but she drove away too fast, and the search was on for her and the missing LAPD black and white car. It was found...
Yeah, it's a little difficult for the cops to give chase when their car got stolen.
Yeah, what are they supposed to do? Commandeer someone's bike?
And the missing LAPD black and white car. It was found less than half a mile away from here. It was dumped in the Hollywood Hills. Nothing was taken, and she didn't crash the car. Thankfully, putting it out of commission, it is still in commission. But she took off, and even though officers searched on the ground and from the air for her, they did not find her. And keep in mind...
She's still on the loose, by the way.
Wait, is she still cuffed, though?
I think so. Unless she found the keys.
Okay, well, that's going to be a problem.
Keep in mind that she was in handcuffs all of this time. They believe she slipped the cuffs from back to front while she was in the back of that police car.
Okay, so not only is she crazy, but she's double jointed.
Yeah, what is she, Plastic Man?
To front while she was in the back of that police car, and then used a small window that's in the partition that divides the back of the patrol car from the front. Through that window, she's a petite thing. She went through there, and that's how she stole the car. Now,
what is she, a professional contortionist?
Shouldn't she be playing some theater in Las Vegas if she can do all that?
Well, she's crazy.
Yeah. Are you familiar with stage performers?
That's true.
Through that window, she's a petite thing. She went through there, and that's how she stole the car. Now, police do believe that they know who she is. As for the victim of all of this, he's facing thousands and thousands of dollars in damage. And
can you get insurance to cover crazy woman smashed up my windshield because I wouldn't buy her booze?
Yeah, well, he's looking at thousands of dollars worth of damage and how many kicks to the crotch from the wife.
His heart is hurt. How could someone he met and thought was a nice girl do this to him?
Okay, I got to know the origin story of this meeting. What is going on with these 2?
How much you want to bet it started with the internet?
Definitely possible. Is this a missed connections on Craigslist?
This isn't even an app. This is the old school internet.
Heart is hurt. How could someone he met and thought was a nice girl do this to him? He seems to be a really nice guy. Reporting live, I'm Gigi Gracia. Back to you.
This story just got even crazier.
I know.
Wow, those details there. Unbelievable. Can't make this stuff up.
I know. Wow. So bizarre, but also...
It sure is.
Yes.
I mean, we're laughing about it. Thankfully, no one got hurt.
Right.
But wow.
Except for the Porsche.
Yeah, that Porsche sounds like someone beat the hell out of it.
Hurt.
Right.
But wow. Okay.
It's like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thanks, Gigi.
Gigi, thank you.
So, crazy woman in Raiders gear still on the loose, everyone, in the Hollywood Hills.
Well, if she can get out of the handcuffs, maybe she can get out of the Raiders jersey, too. Maybe at this point, she's wearing a Rams jersey. All right, Randy, it's time to reopen the blotter.
If the cashier is dummy,
Questions?
And this edition takes us to the ATM.
In Pleasanton, people are getting robbed at ATMs. For more, here is NBC in the Bay Area.
A warning in the Tri-Valley about a string of ATM robberies. Suspects wearing masks and stealing cash from...
Okay, how often do we hear about this? No one ever wore a mask anywhere because it was illegal. It was illegal to wear a mask because of the KKK, because of bank robberies, the whole thing. And then the other village idiot, Barbara Ferrer, takes over the county Department of Public Health, and she mandates that all of us wear a mask. And now everyone's wearing a mask, particularly in the commission of a crime.
Yeah. And stealing cash from unsuspecting victims. Here's NBC's Pete Serratos with the new details.
If you're using an ATM in the city of Pleasanton, you should be on high alert following multiple ATM robberies.
It's kind of scary. You think about it, even, a man out here by himself can get attacked from the back. If they got access to your account, they're going to drain it out.
Pleasanton police say...
You can't see anything in that tiny little mirror they put in the ATM?
Yeah, you're a sitting duck.
Pleasanton police say a number of ATM robberies took place last week, involving a group of suspects wearing dark clothing and face masks.
Thanks, Ferrer.
You're doing a heck of a job. Heck of a job, Barbie.
The suspects assaulting the victims before taking their cash. At a recent city council meeting, the police chief says violent crime in Pleasanton went down by...
Oh, nobody's buying this.
Well, if you were smart enough to understand statistics, you would know that crime is actually going down. So stop paying attention to the news.
Listen to this whole statement here.
At a recent city council meeting, the police chief says violent crime in Pleasanton went down by 10% in 2024, but robberies are trending up, with incidents nearly doubling since 2022.
Okay, wrap your head around that.
When they say violent crime is down, what they're doing is they're playing a lot of fun with the numbers. They are lumping so many different crimes together, including crimes that are not that often, and to show you that overall, violent crime is down. But when you look in specific categories, like, people getting robbed at ATMs, it's doubled.
Yes, that's exactly what they do. They get real cute with all the definitions, and that's how they alter their statistics. So you see all of these people getting robbed at the ATM, and they go, well, if you look at crime more broadly, crime is actually down. For example, we haven't arrested anyone for having sex with a horse since the 1800s.
This is why I always keep this drop from George Gascon on the wall.
You can come up with data to support almost any argument.
Anyone that tells you about the data and the science when it comes to crime, they're fudging the numbers. They're juking the stats.
What was it that Harry Truman used to say? There's lies, damn lies, in statistics.
It's concerning. The last thing I want to do is get, robbed when I'm going to get cash or get, drop off deposits like I do for my work.
What's the second least thing you want to have happen at the ATM?
Drop off deposits like I do for my work.
Yeah, it's super scary. You don't think that it's going to happen here because it's usually really safe. So that's kind of shocking to hear.
Now, Pleasanton PD says they plan to increase patrols in the parking lots of these banks. And at this time, they believe that these incidents are connected. And police are encouraging people to be aware of their surroundings at all times and avoid drawing large amounts of cash.
Well, isn't that what you do at the ATM?
Maybe just do $20 at a time. By the way, most of these are happening late at night. If you're taking out $400 at night, it's not for anything good.
I'll tell you, when I go to Las Vegas, I always hit the Chase ATM there on Las Vegas Boulevard, south of the Strip. And I thought to myself the last time I was there, what are you doing, dummy? You know that every crook on planet Earth understands that people are going to that ATM to pull out large amounts of cash to gamble with.
I know it feels like robbery when you have to pay that $5 service fee at the casino ATM, but the pit bosses are there to make you safe.
Yeah, you're not going to get hit on the head there.
And avoid drawing large amounts of cash.
So I just have to be more mindful, which nowadays is, it's a lot going on. So just another thing that's you have to watch out for, I guess.
Gavin, how do you feel about this?
That is something we are mindful of.
She's one of them.
We reached out to Pleasanton PD tonight for any updates on the search for the suspects, but have yet to hear back. In Pleasanton, Pete Serratos, NBC Bay Area News.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you want to go back and listen to an episode last week where we talked about the tourism numbers in Las Vegas just falling off a cliff, we got a ton of email about those segments. You want to find out what you missed out on, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcast, whether it's the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can do what George Gascon likes to do to himself in the middle of the night.
Do a Google on YouTube.
Or get one of our great apps. In Southern California, you get the KABC app. In Northern California, you get the KSFO app. That's the easiest way to listen live to this show wherever you are around the world. And download all the podcasts, including this gem from some jackass at the LA City Council last week.
And you'd have had martial law, you dumb dude.
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Well, let's do that right now. 790 KABC welcomes Dispatch and John Butler with band at the Pacific Amphitheater at the OC Fair July 26th. It's all part of the Toyota Summer Concert Series. Tickets on sale now at packamp.com. But right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-795-2222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. All concert tickets include admission to the OC Fair. Tickets furnished by the Pacific Amphitheater. Good luck dialing.
I remember the first time I ever heard of fentanyl. It was when Angel pitcher Tyler Skaggs died of a drug overdose when the team was in Texas getting ready to play the Rangers. And I remember reading the news reports at the time talking about this drug. And I remember thinking, okay, well, I know that pitchers have sore arms, so they may want painkillers or Xanax or different things of that nature, things you would expect an athlete to want, even if they're not supposed to have it. But fentanyl was a new one. And then fentanyl ended up making the news just about every day because it's killing people all over the place. But, Randy, there's a new drug right now, and it is working its way all through Skid Row.
It's called Trank. The professional name is xylazine. It's a horse tranquilizer that's not supposed to be used on humans, and it is currently getting mixed into the local fentanyl supply. And while fentanyl can kill you if you overdose, this stuff does something different. It rots off your limbs.
That's no good.
For more on the new zombie drug making its way through Skid Row, here's KTLA.
Tonight, as if the deadly rise of fentanyl could not get any more frightening, there's a new drug being mixed in. It's dubbed the zombie drug. And it.
By the way, I thought the whole point of fentanyl was it's so cheap for them to manufacture, cheaper than heroin, but now they're stepping on fentanyl to manufacture it with this stuff. I do not understand how this works.
No, it's a vicious cycle.
And it is making the most dangerous street drug in the U.S. even deadlier. KTLA's Corrine Winter traveled from Skid Row all the way to the Mexican border to explore the drug's deadly effect here on the streets of L.A.
We want to warn you, some of the images you are about to see may be disturbing to watch.
It's a good day to listen to this story on the radio instead.
Yeah, you definitely do not want to see these images if you plan on sleeping at night.
If you've seen the television show The Walking Dead, that's what this is. Oh, we get the serious music. It's time for Sweeps Week.
Well, you're about to be horrified.
Tuesday afternoon, downtown LA's Skid Row. We didn't have to look far to find this.
So the train dope, it comes out of the pores, I guess?
Among the crowd of homeless people packing these streets, strung out addicts like Josh Booker.
3 days of train dope did that to my finger.
Booker's finger ravaged by the flesh-eating so-called zombie drug xylazine.
But it didn't stop him from doing it.
Oh, no, and I'm sure he wants more.
This isn't like, people got attacked in some chemical explosion. People are willing to do this drug, and sometimes people are seeking out the tranq because they're so desensitized to the fentanyl, they need something that's even stronger. Again, this is a horse tranquilizer.
That new research shows is spreading across Los Angeles.
They cut the fentanyl with tranq, xylazine, and it gives you these blisters that come up out of nowhere. It's like a parasite almost.
But again, it didn't stop you from doing it.
What are we supposed to do with these people? So they're scrambling their brains with the other stuff, the meth and the fentanyl, and now they're deformed too. So we have to fix their brains and we have to fix their bodies and roll the dice and hope that they can be normal again.
Well, this is where the Barbara Ferrers of the world, especially because we've seen this play out in places like Vancouver, they argue this is why we need safe supply. We should have government-supplied opiates so they know what they're taking.
At this point, what are we supposed to do to help these people?
Well, this used to be a lot simpler of a problem to solve. When we allow people to languish on drugs, this is the inevitable result.
The animal tranquilizer, also known as tranq or dope tranq, is not approved for human use.
Dope tranq.
That sounds like a movie of the week.
Also known as tranq or dope tranq, is not approved for human use. Tranq is mixed with fentanyl to create a longer-lasting high, making fentanyl the deadliest drug threat our country has ever faced, even deadlier. What's worse, overdose reversal medications like Narcan don't work on tranq since it's not an opioid.
Wait a second. I thought people like Barbara Ferrer and Gavin Newsom said that more Narcan is the answer to everything. Hell, Gavin Newsom is manufacturing the state's own Narcan, and we're forcing bars to carry Narcan.
Well, the more you learn, the more you think that the conspiracy theory that they're actually trying to kill them has merit to it. But if they're trying to kill them, they're doing it in a way that's about as painful as possible on the way out.
Just remember that as much as you hear Karen Bass saying that she's taking this problem seriously, the number of homeless people dying in Los Angeles every day to overdose was 5 when she started her term as mayor. Now it's 7.
Good job, Karen.
7 people a day are dying, yet the number of homeless people continues to go up.
Tranq leaves users in a zombie-like state and causes abscesses that rot the skin.
You feel a rush, an immediate rush from it, and that's what people are looking for.
This is becoming kind of...
How hard would it be to take that person who's obviously suffering and in a delusional state and voluntarily taking drugs that are rotting his limbs off and putting him in a cold cell for 72 hours before trying to get him into rehab? How is that the non-compassionate thing to do?
There is no way that person is going to get better without being handcuffed to a bed.
This is becoming kind of part of the new normal in terms of illicit opioid use. Right?
Dr. Joseph Friedman has been tracking the emergence of xylazine for years. He led a recent study showing the increased presence of xylazine across the Southland. Friedman tested urine and drug samples of individuals throughout the state, even Mexico.
There's actually a pretty high rate of xylazine in fentanyl samples in Los Angeles as well.
Friedman's study also revealed the drug's prevalence in Tijuana, where drug experts say the cartels are manufacturing tranq and smuggling shipments across the U.S.-Mexico border.
Now, this is another thing I don't understand. I don't understand the business model of the cartel, because the fentanyl, while it's horrible and it's destroying society, it can be reversed with an overdose, so you've got a customer for life. This stuff rots your limbs off and can kill you way quicker.
Well, what you want is you want something that's not going to kill your customers, and you want something that's unbelievably addictive so they keep coming back to you. You basically want the drug version of cigarettes, where it will kill you, but it'll just take forever to do it. If you've come up with drugs that kills them immediately and makes them so repulsive that they can't even make a dollar begging for money on the street, how do you expect them to buy your drugs?
And smuggling shipments across the U.S.-Mexico border into Southern California and San Diego. That's where we traveled to get a closer look at drug seizures at the busy San Ysidro port of entry. It's a major border crossing between San Diego and Tijuana. U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents say they've intercepted a significant amount of fentanyl along with other drugs. About 48,000 pounds of narcotics this year alone. Some of that
48,000 pounds.
That's a ton. And that's not even counting all the drugs that find their way into the country through LAX because they don't even look. And then yesterday we told you about those tunnels that were spotted in San Diego where the drugs were coming in from Mexico underground, and they estimate that there's a gazillion of those things.
Some of that xylazine in steadier and more concerning amounts.
Where we're seeing it is mixed with fentanyl, which could be a double whammy for individuals who are taking fentanyl and, of course, unbeknownst, also taking xylazine as well.
Yeah, but there's a lot of them that are seeking out the trank, the dope trank as they call it, because it gives you a bigger, longer high. And these are not people that seem to care about their future.
No. Public health is not something that's one of their top concerns.
Because it seems like it's significant, the amount of drugs seized here at the border each week.
Correct. And we believe as much tools as possible that we have hitting it from different perspectives assist with us being very successful.
According to the Drug Enforcement Administration, San Diego Field Division, in 2024, there were 4 xylazine-related deaths in that region. This is a photo of some of the trank confiscated from a fatal overdose last year. This breakdown by region shows fentanyl seizures containing xylazine. Agents say in Los Angeles, for example, while the number of seizures remain low for xylazine compared to other more well-known street drugs, percentage-wise, there's a significant increase in the drug's presence, with L.A. more than doubling both powder and pill trank seizures from 2023 to 2024.
It's exponentially getting bigger every single year. And as much as Barbara Ferrer wants to push Narcan as the solution to this and clean needles and clean pipes, there's really no way to reverse that overdose.
Well, this is why Trump has to be successful with the border. Because if you don't have control of the border, you can't stop these drugs from coming in. And right now, these cartels are poisoning our population, and they're making them funky before they kill them. You have to stop the flow of these drugs into the country. Right now, we basically have gotten control of the southern border where people aren't just walking across like they used to all through the Biden administration. But we still have people who are flying in LAX with God knows what in their possession, and they're overstaying their visas, and they're here, and many of them are working in this industry, and these drugs are continuing to come into the country. You have to put an end to it to prevent your population from being poisoned to death, which is what's going on.
KTLA got exclusive access to the DEA Southwest Drug Lab in San Diego County. This is where officials process drug seizures that are tested and stored as possible evidence for prosecution at the state and federal level.
So this was another seizure that was from the Los Angeles area.
Special Agent in Charge Brian Clark with DEA San Diego Field Division says this xylazine seizure alone is enough to kill everyone in downtown LA.
This is fentanyl with xylazine.
At what point do we just start going in with, we've got all these raids going on with ICE. How about we have a raid of Skid Row of all the drug dealers out there? Because I bet you a lot of them are in the country illegally, too.
Oh, we could kick so many of them out of the country if we wanted to. But this is where the locals are going to have to cooperate with the feds. The feds don't know who's a drug dealer and who's not. The locals do. The locals know all the gang members. They know all the drug dealers. If they would cooperate with the feds, we could focus like a laser on those people and kick them all out of the country and make sure it's a good use of everyone's time. But they won't do that. So we have to cast a wider net. And that's what's going on right now. For whatever reason, the locals, Newsom included, are incredibly tolerant of our population being poisoned to death. To them, that's equity.
This is fentanyl with xylazine. So as you see, multiple kilos, dyed purple, just as more of marketing in that color.
Clark cautioned when it comes to tracking trank, the statistics could be higher. There may be undercounted cases because not all labs test for xylazine, a non-controlled substance. Special Agent in Charge Matthew Allen, DEA LA Field Division, says numbers aside, the threat remains, with the xylazine becoming a player in LA's drug supply.
It's not tracked at the state level.
So those numbers are probably going to be higher. They really.
Why are we not tracking this? We've been doing Trank stories for 5 years now.
It's because Gavin Newsom would look bad. So why would you track those numbers that show that an open border, which is something that you support, is poisoning your population and turning them into zombies, which we all see on a regular basis?
They're all about the data, except for the data that makes them look bad. They don't want to collect that.
No way.
They really are. And especially a place like Skid Row, what better market, right? People who are just, you're dealing with people who are mentally ill, people who are drug addicted already. And they're preying on people who are already down.
Back on Skid Row, Trank user Josh Booker is fighting another fix. He wants to get clean, knowing that next hit could be his last.
That's the gamble we take. It's something that we live with.
Corrine Winter, KTLA 5 News.
But of course, the city of Los Angeles thinks it's compassionate to leave that guy on the streets to inject himself to death.
You have to be so demented and so rotted in the brain to believe that allowing these people to kill themselves on the streets for all of us to see is the compassionate position. But that's what they do. And if you oppose allowing them to provide these safe consumption sites, they will call you a Neanderthal, and they will say that you don't understand the data and you don't understand public health, and your ideology is leading you to a position that is incorrect. When in fact, they are purposely allowing these people to die in the streets as a point of policy. How these people ever got elected on that platform is beyond my ability to comprehend. But that's what they believe in, and that's what they're doing. And we're all suffering the consequences. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Will writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And to think I always thought our elected zombies like Numbscum Newsom, Bonehead Bonta, and Cackling Kamala were just stupid. Could it be Trank? Clearly, Cecily Meyer Cruz prefers meth. Sadly for the fake doctor, Trank has no effects, and she walked into the light more than 200 years ago, so her evil dead coma comes naturally.
We have some breaking news for you. Remember that bombing that took place at the fertility clinic in Palm Springs?
Yeah.
Well, a Washington state man accused of providing large amounts of chemicals to make explosives for that bombing has died in federal custody. His name's Daniel Park. He's 32 years old. He was taken into custody earlier this month at JFK Airport after being deported from Poland, where he traveled 4 days after the bombing. This is according to U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley, who was on the program yesterday. He was facing charges of conspiracy. According to a statement from the U.S. Department of Justice Federal Bureau of Prisons, Park was found unresponsive at approximately 7:30 a.m. earlier today at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles. Responding employees initiated life-saving measures. Emergency medical services were requested while life-saving efforts continued, the statement said. Mr. Park was transported by EMS to a local hospital and subsequently pronounced deceased by hospital personnel. Further details about the manner in which Park died were not immediately shared. That's a strange story, and it just gets stranger and stranger.